Hey, Brittany. So this is a first for me. I have never been live. I feel like an elder, so forgive me. Okay, hold on. Have you had a chance to read it yet? And if you have, I would love your feedback. I can't see who the other person is, but welcome. I'm just gonna take a couple more minutes. Okay, thank you, Brittany. So this is live, so I mean anybody could go back and watch it, but I just want to jump on tonight to thank everybody that has read it or is interested in reading it. I appreciate it. I'm a little tired, so forgive me. I had a long week and a long day. But I'll just go ahead and start and talk about what led me to write this book. As I've been putting in posts throughout the week, I was suffering from endometriosis and adenomyosis since I was about 10 years old, which is when I got my first menstrual cycle. So I was being told for years that those pains were normal, which now I know they weren't. I didn't even know what I had at the time. So I would experience symptoms like for one, let me backtrack. My cycles were not your normal 3 to 5 days. They were lasting anywhere from 6 to 7. I've even had cycles lasting about 7 to 8 days. So when I was talking to my mom about this, when I was about maybe 12, she started trying to figure out like, hey, maybe we should take you to the GYN and see what's going on. So my GYN was male, older man. And the first thing he told me and my mom was, well, first thing he asked is she sexually active? And I was not. And then he was like, well, let's just do birth control. And I'm like, okay, like I'm not doing anything, but okay. So from then on, I was on birth control from about 14 years old to, I want to say maybe about 23, 24, which is a very long time, but many women are on birth control that long. And it just masked the symptoms, to be honest. But I didn't realize that there was still a lot of turmoil going on inside. So, as I got older, it just became unbearable. Like, it was to the point whether I was on birth control or not, the pains were about the same. So I went from taking like Pamprin or Midol to taking 800 milligram ibuprofen tablets, which is a lot. And I was taking them multiple times a day, and it was not helping. The pain was just there. It was stabbing. It brought me to tears. I was shaking. I would have back pain, abdominal pain, sciatic pain, migraines, nausea, sometimes diarrhea, like all these things. And I'm still trying to work, right? Like I'm still going to school and college, interning, trying to live a normal life with this pain. And some days I was not able to take off. Some days I couldn't miss class or miss exams. And, you know, in the world that we live in with women's health, that's not an acceptable reason to not be at work, or be at school. So I would be in pain, literally talking to coworkers, like clenching my hands or clenching my feet because I'm in so much pain, but I don't want anybody else to know that. So as I got older, I decided to, as I kept digging into my symptoms, I realized that I had endometriosis. So I kind of self-diagnosed because a lot of doctors didn't really believe it, right? They just thought, like, you're just exaggerating. This is normal. Every woman has a period, but it kept being downplayed. So I started being vocal and advocating for myself a lot with my doctors. I've tried all birth control, from pill to IUD to Nexplanon in the arm, and none of it I just got tired of it. To be honest, I started feeling like it was making me sick. So I took myself off, and that's when the pain came like 10 times fold. So when I was about 24, 25, I took myself off birth control. I tried to manage the pain with heating pads, changing my diet, but none of it worked. So when around COVID, I was no longer on birth control. I got pregnant. And to be honest with you, from the time I was 10 to the time I got pregnant, I was in so much pain that 9 months of carrying my son was probably the most relief I ever had. And that is crazy to say, but it was. So I was not having periods. I was not experiencing any of that, but I was experiencing elevated blood pressure, which I now know is a symptom of endometriosis and adenomyosis. So after I had him in 2020, I had him December 2020. I'm sorry guys, because I'm trying to go back, because it's been years of trauma, to be honest. So forgive me if I keep looking away. But so I had him in 2020. After I had my son, I started experiencing really bad, like, pain in my diaphragm. Like, it would shoot up, like, from my stomach on up, and it would wake me up at like 1 a.m. and I'm like, this pain is unbearable. What is it? I kept going to the hospital, and they're just like, we don't see anything. And come to find out, I had a diseased gallbladder, which was because the endometriosis was growing on it, which I know now. But that was what was going on. My gallbladder was diseased. So I had to end up having my gallbladder removed in July of 2021. And that experience was a blessing in disguise, because when they went in to do that surgery, that's when they finally saw my endometriosis. So from the time I was 10 until 2021, that's the first time somebody actually saw the lesions and the scar tissue in my abdominal area. So that was confirmation, and you have to count those years. That's about 10 to 20, 26 years old. That's a long time to be going through all of that and nobody ever actually fully diagnosing you other than you self-diagnosing. So I took that and ran with it. I took it to my GYN. And they were like, okay, now we have something to work with. So fast forward, I'm recovering from giving birth. I had this surgery, dealing with elevated blood pressure. At this point, I have medical trauma. Like, I've been poked, stuck, told that I don't see anything wrong with you, to somebody finally seeing something wrong with you. I was tired of going to the doctor, to be honest. So I would say 2023, I would say my period started getting a lot worse. So at this point, I'm taking 800 milligram like it's candy. There was days that I was bedridden. I decided to start working from home because it was the only way that I could work. My periods would be so heavy, painful. It was just like hell, to be honest. So, I would cry a lot, and like my husband was very supportive, and he's just like, I already know what time it is. I got everything, just lay in the bed, because that's literally all that I could do for those first maybe 2 to 3 days. And it went from the first 2 to 3 days being unbearable to the entire 5 to 6 days being unbearable. So in 2023, I ended up having a I think it's ablation surgery, where they go in and kind of like burn off the scar tissue and everything. They took my fallopian tubes out. So I thought they took my fallopian tubes out, and they pretty much suggested like, you need a hysterectomy. I didn't want to do that. Like at first, me and my husband were like, we're just going to have one child. We were one and done. But the possibility of having another, I still kind of wanted to entertain that. But being told that I needed a hysterectomy was scary, because I'm like, at this point now I can no longer have children if I do this. So I held off. I literally put myself through hell an additional 1.5 years to entertain the possibility of possibly having another child. But it got to the point that I couldn't anymore. So around May of 2024, May of 2024, I'll never forget it. I was with my husband. We were at a car shop because he was getting his truck fixed. And I was on my cycle. And I was in so much pain. I took 800 milligram ibuprofen, and it was doing nothing. The pain that I had till this day, I kid you not, I can remember it. Like I can still feel it. It felt 10 times worse than a contraction. And I was sitting there literally like almost about to curl up in this shop. And I told my husband, I was like, we got to go. Like, I know these people are working in your car, but we got to go because I'm in pain. I even tried to walk around the building a little bit to maybe see if it would loosen up or whatever. It was not. It was shooting. I felt like somebody was stabbing me with a knife. So he ended up taking me to the hospital, and they did some imaging, and they said your appendix is abnormally enlarged. And I'm like, they was like, do you have appendicitis? I'm like, I've never had any problems with my appendix. And then that's when it clicked. I was like, well, I do have endometriosis and adenomyosis. And they were like, so that means that's endometriosis growing on your appendix. And that is wild. Like, I was literally, my mouth hit the floor, because you're telling me that my endometriosis has literally bypassed every reproductive organ I have in my body, and now it's growing on my appendix. It was also growing on my gallbladder. That's why they had to take it out. So they were like, yeah, you need to have a hysterectomy. If they've told you that, you literally have no choice now, because your appendix is literally about to rupture, which is deadly. So they reached out to the surgeon that I was referred to a 1.5 years prior, and they was like, you need to do emergency surgery. So they put me on the schedule. So I think I was scheduled for surgery for, I want to say maybe like 4 or 5 days later or something like that. So thank you, Brittany, and thank you, Brandy. So long story short, because I don't want to be long-winded, but I had to end up having the hysterectomy. And when before I went in, I was terrified, because I didn't know what they were going to find. But it was also kind of a blessing, because it's like, now somebody believes me. Now something is being done about it. So I woke up from surgery. I was in a lot of pain. I was like out of it for a while. So finally, when the surgeon came in, my doctor, he was talking to me and my husband, and he was like, yeah, it was a lot worse than we thought it was. So I had stage 4 endometriosis, to the point they took out my right ovary, they took out my uterus, took out cervix, the rest of my fallopian tubes. And then they said, we also had to take out a part of your bowels. We had to do a slight bowel resection on you, which is literally cutting a piece of your bowel out. And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, because it was growing in your rectum. So I had endometriosis growing outside of the uterine wall, growing on my bladder, growing in my my rectal area, was growing on my appendix, and then prior to that growing on my bladder. So, or I'm sorry, my gallbladder. So it was growing everywhere. So they had to take all of that out. They said everything was stuck together really bad. And yeah, so at that point, when I finally came down off of medication, it hit me that I could, I'm sorry. I could no longer carry kids. So God, I promised that I wasn't going to do this on live, but that was very hard for me. To wake up from a surgery like that. That's normal for a lot of women, but I felt like it was normal for women that wanted it, right? I was forced to do that. So I felt like my body betrayed me for a long time. And I felt like I would never know what it's going to be like to have more than one child. So I went into a depression for a while. I was literally what they say mourning my reproductive system, which sounds weird, but you only have one, you know, so it's gone forever. Like I will never get that back. So I ended up going to therapy for a while to talk about my journey and what I went through. And at this point, as I'm recovering, I'm also in my MBA program. So I was earning my MBA in healthcare management through Western Governors University. So it was online, thank God. But I was towards the end of my program, and I was in a very hard class, which was, I think it was accounting or finance. There was 2 separate classes, but math was not my strong suit. So having to go through a major surgery and deal with all of these emotions and the pain, I had to ask for an extension on my class because if not, it would have been considered incomplete. And thank God they allowed a 30-day extension. So I had some time to recover comfortably, but I was still thinking about, God, am I going to pass this class? You know what I mean? So, you know, during this time, my son is wanting to jump on me and play, and he's not understanding what's going on, why mommy has this scar, why she has staples on her stomach. He's like, is your stomach broken? And I was like, yeah, my tummy's broken. But after a while, I started to kind of appreciate that out of all of this, I was blessed to carry at least one child. So there are days still to this day that I still get a little sad. You know, my son may sometimes say he wants a sister or something, and it kind of stings a little bit, which obviously he's 4 now, so he's about to be 5 next month. He doesn't know, but it still stings a little bit that I could never give him that. But I have to keep reminding myself that, you know, he's the blessing out of all of this. He's the flower that grew from this. And I said all this to say that you have to advocate for yourself. And don't let anybody tell you that nothing is wrong. You know your body, do your research. And there's more things available now than it was back when I was 10, 12, 14 years old. And there's more research going into it. But you have to advocate for yourself. None of this is normal. They still don't even know what causes endometriosis. They're thinking it may be an autoimmune disease. They're thinking it may be genetic, because my mother actually had similar menstrual cycle issues as well. So it could be genetic, and nobody does, you know, no one knows still to this day. You can't even you can't even get disability for endometriosis, which is sad, because it is a debilitating disease. Adenomyosis is considered its evil half sister because it's when endometriosis penetrates the uterus and it hardens, which causes infertility. So both are equally as bad, but advocate for yourself. I wrote this book out of the pain that I was going through and still sometimes go through. There's no cure. Even though I went through all of this, it could still come back and I might have to have yet another surgery. So please take care of yourselves. Talk to your GYNs. And if your GYN is not listening, go to another one. And until you get the answers that you're looking for. And I appreciate everybody that read my book. And if you haven't yet, please read it. This was a little tough. It was tougher than I thought it was going to be. But I appreciate everybody for tuning into my live. Did anybody have any questions about anything or any comments? I appreciate it. Thanks, Key, and thank you, Brittany. Hey, sis, I just noticed you was on here. Let me see. Also, even though I did this book for endo and adeno, I did have a time during postpartum as well. So I do plan on writing a short story about that. It may be a little longer because that was rough too. Brandy, have you had any of the side effects since surgery? Yes. So I still have what they call phantom pains around my cycle time. And it's not as bad. It's just kind of like annoying, dull aches. So yeah, I still do have some pain sometimes. And when they get worse, then that'll be my body's way of telling me that there's more scar tissue for me. So, but I am on a weight loss journey. So hopefully that does help a little bit. But that is also a misconception that eating healthy and weighing less will somehow relieve your symptoms, which that's a big misconception. It does not. Yes, being healthy all around does help your body in general, but when it comes to something, a disease like this, it doesn't matter, especially when no one really has a definite answer as to what causes it. So yeah. Love you too, Mom. Oh yeah. Yeah, the gynecologist could have been more aggressive, but I think it depends on the gynecologist, right? Because not all gynecologists are created equal, unfortunately. And to be honest, believe it or not, I felt more ignored than with women gynecologists than men. And that is very interesting. I feel like sometimes other women we can be our own biggest obstacle and enemy sometimes when another woman is telling you what they're going through and then you downplay it and base it on your own experiences. That can be more harmful than anything. So yeah, they could have been more aggressive, but I think some gynecologists just don't want to admit that they don't know. And instead of saving their patients time and their feelings, they would just rather chop it up to something that it has nothing to do with instead of saying they don't know. So one of my gynecologists right before I got pregnant was an African-American woman. Yeah, she was African-American. I told her about my symptoms. She was quick to give me an IUD. So that's why I said all gynecologists are not made equal. She was a great provider. And I, of course, will always go up for African-American women in health care. But she was quick to give me birth control. So yeah. But I just saw a gynecologist recently. She was African American, and she was a big advocate for endometriosis and adenomyosis. So it just depends. I say, like, research your providers and their bios. Like when you go on your websites that give your providers bios, look and see what it is that they focus on, because not all of them focus on endometriosis at all. So if it's not one of their focus points as a provider, then bypass and go look for somebody that does. Brandy, you said they say the same thing for me with HS. What do you mean? And by the way, I do work. I do not, and that is a great idea. I probably should start one. There's so many endometriosis groups on Facebook, but I could start one, and that is a great idea. I think I should. Oh yeah, Brandy, they do say that, especially for women that have a little more, cushion on them. They're quick to tell you weight loss to eat healthy, and it's just like, okay, but what else? There's women that are thin and still have this issue, so it's not just about that. It does also have a side effect of elevated blood pressure. So I was diagnosed with hypertension at 23. And I was on medication up until a couple months ago. I was taken off of it. So, and now I have to watch it for real. So, anytime that time that normally would have been my time of the month comes around, I'm really on top of it. Hey, but yeah, I think I will start a group. If you guys have any suggestions on information that you want to see in the group or anything like that, please shoot me a message. I'm open to suggestions, because I think this needs way more attention than it's getting. It's getting some attention, and I think now because a lot of celebrities are coming out saying that they have endometriosis, now it's gaining traction, which sucks because everyday women that are not celebrities have this problem, and they don't get the same publicity as a celebrity. Oh yeah, PCOS is another one. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And it sucks that they keep telling. If your gynecologist is telling you that, Brandy, I think you probably might want to look for another one. Somebody that specializes in PCOS, because to tell somebody that is literally like gaslighting. And it's very harmful, and that's why a lot of people end up going into depressions. I think I'm gonna wrap it up now, but because I'm so tired. I had a hard week, and I'm pretty sure y'all did too. But I thank you guys so much for tuning in. I didn't think that I was gonna stay on this long, but I appreciate you guys interacting with me. Please continue to share my book if you haven't. And please send me reviews on it. Any reviews that you have, you can share the book link and put your reviews on Facebook. I appreciate you guys a lot, and stay tuned. For maybe I might do another live. I don't know. I might try to choose a subject about endometriosis or something to do every week. Y'all let me know if y'all want to see that. But have a great night, and I appreciate you guys again. I work in healthcare now. I'm a practice operations manager at Orlando Health.